Uruguayan workers held a strike to reject the pension reform announced by Luis Lacalle's government. The president of China, Xi Jinping, warned the G20 member countries promoting confrontation between blocs will only divide the world and undermine global development. Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov denounced at the G20 summit in Indonesia that a hybrid war is being unleashed in Ukraine, prepared by the West for years to confront Russia. From the headquarters of TeleSUR English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South. I'm your anchor, Gladys Quesada, and these are the news. Uruguayan workers held a partial general strike and several actions in the country in rejection of the pension reform announced by Luis Lacalle's government. The general strike was organized by the Workers' Confederation. According to demonstrators, the reform proposed by the government burdens the Uruguayan workers with the responsibility for social security without solving the problem of properly financing the pension system. The protests took place between 9 a.m. and 1 p.m. local time. They included a rally in front of the University of the Republic and marched to the headquarters of the legislative branch. In El Salvador, 2,000 people have been released out of the 57,000 detained during the 7-month exception regime imposed by the government of Nayib Bukele. The data was confirmed by the head of the Ministry of Justice and Public Security, Gustavo Villatoro. The figure of the released people represents only 3.5% of the detained during 7 months of a state of emergency enforced by the government to allegedly contain a wave of gang violence. The detentions correspond to the presumption of the crime of illicit groupings for their presumed membership or participation in gangs. However, in both cases, social organizations denounced before the Inter-American Human Rights Commission non-transparency and violation of due process in the detentions and demand to know the whereabouts of the imprisoned people. Ecuador commemorates the centenary of a workers' massacre ordered by President José Luis Tamayo against laborers who were demanding working conditions improvements. On Tuesday, in Quito, a popular rally is planned to pay homage to the victims of the 1922 massacre that took place in Guayaquil. 100 years ago, the government of President José Luis Tamayo accused the workers who were demanding labor improvements of being anarchists, guerrillas, and terrorists with the purpose of justifying the repression in which a great number of people were murdered. Commemorations started in October and will last until December with dance, theater, music, cinema, academic events, and fairs. In Argentina, public health workers in the capital, Buenos Aires, demonstrated to demand a wage increase. Joined by neighborhoods and political organizations, thousands of residents and doctors marched with candles and flashlights to demand better wages and working conditions from the government of the city of Buenos Aires. Healthcare workers reached the third consecutive week of strikes across all the 30 public hospitals of the city. In a statement, Residents' Assembly claimed the struggle as historic and called on the chief of government of Buenos Aires, Horacio Rodríguez Larreta, to stop undermining public health care. In Haiti, health authorities have expressed concern about the spread of the latest cholera outbreak in the country, with over 8,000 reported suspected cases and 155 confirmed fatalities. According to the Health Ministry, cases have been reported in 8 of the 10 departments of the country, although the Western Department continues to have the highest number of cases with 3,304 44 suspected cases in the commune of Port-au-Prince. Cholera entered the country in October in the midst of a blockade to the main oil terminal, which provoked a fuel shortage that hindered the functioning of hospitals, water treatment plants, factories, medical oxygen production, and even public administration. Since then, 8,257 suspected cases have been reported, out of which 791 have been confirmed. Most of the cases are occurring among children from 1 to 4 years of age, followed by young adults between 20 and 29 years of age. We'll take a short break, but first, remember you can follow us on our TikTok account at TeleSUR English, in which you will be able to see news in different formats, news updates, and more. Other stories coming up, stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. In Indonesia, the President Joko Widodo welcomed the leaders of the group of the 20 major economies and opened the summit that will last until Wednesday in Bali. All the leaders of the group, with the exception of the leaders of Russia, Brazil, and Mexico, who will send their foreign ministers, participate this Tuesday in the first plenary session in which they will discuss food security, digital transformation, and will also hold bilateral meetings on the margins of the summit. The G20 summit will open with a focus on strengthening the global health architecture, accelerating sustainable energy transition, and promoting digital transformation.
We should not divide the world into parts. We must not allow the world fall into another Cold War.
The President of China, Xi Jinping, warned the G20 member countries promoting confrontation between blocs will only divide the world and undermine global development. During his speech at the summit, which began on Tuesday in Bali, Indonesia, the president stressed the importance of mutual respect, the search for common ground, peaceful coexistence, and promoting the real development of all countries. He noted that the global economy faces a threat, the impact of which is felt first by developing countries, and urged the world leaders to promote a more resilient economy and deepen international cooperation against COVID-19. President Xi Jinping also took a stand against policies that seek to weaponize food and energy. The Chinese economy continued to recover against the backdrop of the increasing risk of world economic recession, frequent and sporadic COVID-19 recurrences, extreme heat waves, and serious drought. The spokesperson for the National Bureau of Statistics in Beijing said the recovery has been possible thanks to a package of policies to stabilize the economy that are gradually taking effect. With the implementation of these policies, the Asian giant's domestic demand has been accelerated, and the demand pull the economy has been strengthened. As the guarantee for production factors gets stronger and the circulation of the industrial chain and the supply chain has been improved, China has seen a faster growth of industrial production and improvement in the service sector, and also stimulates employment. Senior government officials in Thailand expressed strong expectations ahead of Chinese President Xi Jinping's attendance of the upcoming 29th Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Leaders meeting in Bangkok to promote friendly and cooperative bilateral relations. After the Group of 20 summit in Indonesia, the 29th APC-EC Economic Leaders meeting will be held in Bangkok from November 18th. Leaders from nations with leaders from major Asian Pacific economies coming together to discuss issues facing the region. Prominent officials in the cultural sector also hailed President Xi's upcoming visit, saying it will strongly promote economic and trade cooperation under bilateral and multilateral structures. And the world reached 8 billion inhabitants on Tuesday, according to the United Nations estimates. In addition, India is projected to replace China as the world's most populous country by 2023. The United Nations World Population Outlook report for 2022, released on Tuesday, also said that world population growth fell below 1% in 2020 for the first time since 1950. More than half of the projected increase in world population to 2050 will be concentrated in just 8 countries: the Democratic Republic of Congo, Egypt, Ethiopia, India, Nigeria, Pakistan, the Philippines, and Tanzania. In the busy streets of India's capital, Delhi, residents expressed concern about the rapid population growth and the prospect of job and food shortages.
Well, I would say this large young demographic already exists. Whether it's going to be a dividend or a disaster is something that will be determined by the investments that are made by the state in their health, their well-being, opportunities for them.
And thousands of Turkish flags and carnations bouquets decorated the busy Istiklal Avenue in central Istanbul as people paid tribute to the victims of Sunday's terrorist attack. The explosion on Istanbul's best-known commercial street killed at least 6 people and injured 81 others. Turkish authorities released a statement stating the bomber had been identified as a Syrian woman named Ahlam al-Bashir. Police also said that during interrogation, al-Bashir admitted she received her orders from Syria's Democratic Union Party, which Turkey view as the Syrian affiliate of the Kurdistan Workers' Party, a group of the Turkish government has been fighting for decades. And we have more news coming up after a final short break, so stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov denounced at a press conference at the G20 summit in Bali, Indonesia, that a hybrid war is being unleashed in Ukraine, prepared by the West for years to confront Russia. According to Lavrov, the European Union and NATO have long been participants in this hybrid war through the supply of arms and the training of troops, while the United States provides intelligence and participates in the selection of targets. He also denounced the military and biological activities of the U.S. in countries of Europe and Asia bordering Russia and China. In the United Kingdom, the government has confirmed the early withdrawal of its military contingent, currently deployed in Mali, as part of the United Nations mission in the African country. According to the British Ministry of Defence, they had committed for 3 years also, but in view of the growing instability in the country, they have decided to anticipate their troops' withdrawal, which should be leaving the country over the next 6 months. Nearly 300 British soldiers have been in Mali since late 2020. Their departure follows the evacuation of the French military from Operation Barkhane, designed by Paris to contain the Islamist groups that control vast areas of northern Mali, at the request of the Malian government. Ethiopia's government and the Tigray People's Liberation Front, the TPLF, have agreed to grant unfettered humanitarian access to Tigray starting on Tuesday. The Ethiopian government and the TPLF's latest commitment builds on a truce that both parties signed on November the 2nd, nearly 2 years into a disastrous war that killed about 500,000 people and displaced millions more. Under the agreement, Tigrayan forces have 30 days to completely disarm, with the Ethiopian government set to assume control of highways and airports, as well as preside over the Tigrayan capital of Mekelle. But after roughly 2 years of brutal fighting and reports of sexual violence and ethnic cleansing, experts said it might be challenging for Tigrayan fighters to accept such conditions.
There is no such thing as a good war or a bad peace. War is always bad, even if you are winning. You kill people and spit out dollars. There is no gain from it.
Now we move on to other topics. At the COP27 conference in Egypt, the Vice President of the Islamic Republic of Iran, Ali Salah Jengeh, said investing in and promoting the use of low-carbon fuels could play a more effective role in ensuring energy security in the world.
Absolute disuse of fossil energy seems highly unlikely in the short and mid-run. That is why investing in and promoting the use of low-carbon fuels, such as natural gas and systems with higher energy efficiency, could play a more effective role in ensuring energy security, as countries push forward with the Sustainable Development Plans.
And the European Union vowed at the COP27 conference in Egypt on Tuesday that it will strengthen its carbon-cutting commitment, insisting that the bloc was not backtracking in the face of the conflict in Ukraine.
To finalise all legislation to deliver our climate target by the end of this year. The current state of play will bring the actual emissions reductions to at least 57%. So I am happy to announce here today that the EU stands ready to update our NDC, reflecting this higher ambition.
Around 1,000 people in the Australian town of Forbes have been told to evacuate before expected major flooding, as the entire Central West remains on high alert. The town of Forbes is facing its second flood emergency in just 2 weeks as the Lachlan River continued to rise and is expected to reach 10.8 meters on Tuesday. Emergency services in New South Wales are dealing with the largest flood operation in the state's history as more Defence Force personnel and volunteers from around the world join rescue and relief efforts. Volunteers are coming from New Zealand, the United States and Singapore. Meanwhile, Premier Dominic Perrottet said rescue efforts are now focused on the towns of Eugowra and Forbes, where 14 aircraft have been used to help stranded residents. Heavy rains in Colombia triggered floods and landslides in parts of Bogotá and North Santander Department, where 5 people are still missing. Authorities in North Santander Department reported 5 people from the same family are still missing after a landslide in the village of El Molino, a rural area in the municipality of Villa Claro. The landslide damaged several houses and displaced over 100 people. Silvano Serrano, the governor of the North Santander, said search and rescue efforts have been hampered by difficulties in accessing the site. He also added that the land has not yet stabilized and heavy rains has contributed to its instability. And we have a disclaimer to announce. Our Facebook page has been hacked and currently displaying content out of our agenda and against our social, moral, political, and informative premises. We stress TeleSUR English is not responsible for these posts that violate Facebook's community standards. We hope this company will give us back our credentials as soon as possible and resume our regular posts on that social media. And we have come to the end of this news brief. But remember, you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also, if you feel so inclined, please join us on social media for all the latest news. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Gladys Quesada. Thank you for watching.